Say Chaim Tovim V'Choshen Shalom L'chaim L'chaim. So Yashkot Reb Tzvi for the beautiful, beautiful spread. The Scotch and Bourbon is dedicated by the Silber family in honor of the return of Avraham Mordechai. Coming back from, we are looking for sponsors in Mirat Hashem for future weeks. You can see Azriel if you'd like to sponsor the Scotch and Bourbon Lavdala. Right, Yain V'Kiddush. Mirat Hashem a little bit. Ner Lamar, whatever. This is a very Hamish crowd over here. Whatever it is. So let's begin. Let's begin. And it's a schos Baruch Hashem to get together on Erev Shabbos. Incredible schos to be able to prepare for the Yom Tov of Pesach together. We began last week in the Chalban, and we were speaking about in the Chalban the beautiful idea. We did the first piece in the Chalban. So again, for the chaburah that's new, in this shir Thursday nights, we started as a chassidus shir. We did some of the Lubavitch Rebbe, some Rabbi Nachman, and then we transitioned to the works of the Chalban. Chalban was one of the greatest mikubalim in Eretz Yisrael, just passed away not so long ago. And the chaburah that's been learning his Torah knows that there's something mashunadik about the Chalban's Torah. There's just something different. I don't know, maybe Nehemiah said it to me last week, that if you know what I'll say, when the Chalban writes, he doesn't quote any Mara Makomos. Right? There's no source, there's no this, there's no that. It's almost Devarim Hayotzim min Halev. From the Chalban, obviously, it's all from Torah. It's all there's sources for everything. But Lamais, that's not this kind of sefer. That's not this kind of limud. It's ultimately it's a Torah's hanafshi. It's just a different kind of Torah. And those of us who have been zocheh to learn it over the last couple of weeks see how the Chalban has such a unique and beautiful derech. And we saw last week that the Chalban spoke about the idea that in order to experience the chayrus, in order to experience the freedom of Pesach, one has to first go ahead and put themselves into... Belly, so happy you came. Mirat Hashem, we'll get you on the tail end. You weren't sure that they were here? I'm sorry. I did send it out late. I'm sorry, my bad. Mirat Hashem, we'll... Okay, so we saw the Chalban spoke about the idea... The Chalban spoke about the idea that
I'll take care of him.
It's very important. I need him to be happy. And well cared for. So the Chalban was speaking about the idea that in order to go ahead and come out of the shibud, in order to come out of the slavery, in order to experience the chirus, in order to experience the freedom, a person first has to put themselves in avdus, an incredible yesod. You have to willingly go into avdus. What does it mean to willingly go into avdus? That a person has to be willing to confront their failures. The Chalban pointed out that we spend so much of life running away from our faults and our failures. We spend so much of life pretending like those faults and failures don't exist. And we make up excuses and we just ignore. But the truth is, says the Chalban, if you want chayrus, if you want freedom, the first step to freedom is avdos. There's no such thing as chayrus without avdos. Person has to be willing to go into their Mitzrayim. Person has to be willing to be yoreh, to go down into their shibud. Person has to be willing to confront their faults, their frailties, their difficulties, their averos. And only once they're willing to confront, and only once they're willing to really own it, and to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay, I made mistakes, but I'm ready to do things differently. Only once you're willing to engage your shibud, do you have the opportunity and ability to really go out into chayrus. That's the Chalban taught us last week. We're going to continue a little bit. There's so much I want to do, but this is our last year before Pesach. So I want to share with you on page Chaf on your sheet, which is the first sheet here. And I will say, we dedicate our learning, of course, in the schus of all of Klal Yisrael. And we hear the news that comes out of Eretz Yisrael tonight, a terror attack in Tel Aviv. And Erev Shabbos Kodesh. And we see a world in which there's so much upheaval. Not a day goes by that there's not some dramatic upheaval event. And all of this happening again on the cusp of Zman Cherusah, on the cusp of Pesach, a time of such dramatic change. There's a koach in this world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us something. What it is, we have to try to figure out. But one thing is clear, that when you see the world changing so dramatically all around you all of the time, then it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu whispering in my ear, if the world could change, so can I. if everything in the world as we know it, which is really, if you think about it, what's happened over the last 2 years, between pandemic, Ukraine, leaving aside what's happened, not leaving aside, look at everything in Eretz Yisrael, the terror attacks, the government, all these things, is upheaval in every corner. And if there's upheaval in every corner of the world, then it's time for me to start an inner upheaval as well, to try to figure out what needs to be righted, what needs to be corrected, what needs to be redone, what needs to be remade. And with that, let's begin. So the Chalban says something incredibly beautiful over here. He says, everyone has enough sheets? Or there's still more in the middle if anyone needs. So look what the Chalban says. Zman shu eichos l'chol hashan, b'chol shana. Chalban writes every year, Leil ha-Seder nimshach sha'os sefuros bilvad. He says, every year, the Seder only lasts a couple of hours. So know what you're thinking to yourself. Halavai, right? Halavai only lasts a couple of hours, right? The Seder lasts a couple of hours. He says, Biyachas l'chol hashana kula, zezman katzer ma'od. If you think about, right, however long your Seder is, but when you compare how long the Seder is to the rest of the year, the Seder is just a minuscule part, right? It's a couple of seconds compared with the rest of the year. Yet he says, Lachin b'mabat shtachi nira shekiviyachal ein harbe yicholes lif al bal al hashana kula. Seder will say, if you were to ask a person, tell me, what's the impact that the Seder has on the rest of the year? So, b'pashtus, what would a person say? What's the impact the Seder has on the rest of the year? Not much, negligible, right? Why? Because think about it. Let's say your Seder goes for 4 hours, 5 hours. So 4 hours, I don't know how many hours there are in a year, but however many, 4 hours, 5 hours out of an entire year is a tipa shebetipos. It's nothing. It's a little drop. It's nothing. So, obviously, the Seder can't have so much of a dramatic effect if it only occupies such a few number of hours. Yet the Chalban says, he says, V'ulam, kan tzrichim anu lohavin yisod gadol. But here the Chalban says we have to understand something very important. V'hu b'davar ha'hevdol ben ha'pu'ula b'chitzonios le'pu'ula b'pnimius. So ultimately, again, the Chalban says here we have to see the difference between those things which occur b'chitzonius, externally, and those things which occur in pnimius. Now, I both say, if you remember again, when we were learning Hakitzu V'Ranenu, so everything in Hakitzu V'Ranenu was all about Pnimius and Chitzonius. So remember again, in Hakitzu V'Ranenu, Pnimius v'Chitzonius, remember again, this little Chazara, how did the Chalban explain Pnimius and Chitzonius by Hakitzu V'Ranenu?
Klal.
Good, Klal versus the Yachid. Right, the Chitzonius is my avoda as a Yachid, the Pnimius is my avoda as part of the Klal. Here the Rebbe is using it in a little, Chalban's using it in a little bit of a different context. He says like this, Ki yadua, ha'olam nechlok lepnimius v'chitzonius. The world is divided, I was saying, between things that are pnimius. Now again, pnimius is one of those words that we know what it is, but it's hard to define it. Right? Well, he's going to define it in just a moment, but there's a distinction in the world between the pnimius, the inner things, and the external things. Kimo kena adam, shu asui betavnis ha'olamos, sheyesh lo pnimius v'chitzonius. A person is the same way. Every person has pnimius and chitzonius. Pnimius ha'adam, he sod nishmaso. What's your pnimius? Your pnimius is your neshama. But if you notice the Lashon of the Chalban, he doesn't just simply say neshama. What does he use? Sod neshama. Again, without getting into all of this right now, but I will say there's, not only do I have a neshama, but there's a sod, right? Sod can mean a secret. Sod could also mean a foundation. There's a foundational element of my neshama that is pure, that is holy, that cannot be corrupted, that cannot be tainted. So my pnimius, I have a sod nishmaso. Vachitzonius, he sod kochosav hagiluyim. So I will say, look at this in just a moment. My pnimius, I understand. That's my neshama. What's my chitzonius? These are my revealed kochos. Now, what are my revealed kochos? Says the Chalban. Shem sichlo, v'daito, machshavosav, rigeshosav, gufo, ve'evarav. So it's interesting, because you would have thought to make the order a little bit opposite, right? What's my chitzonius? My chitzonius, of course, is my body, my limbs, my physicality, my physical strength. But included in this list, the Chalban also puts in there, sichlo v'daito, your intellect. We'll say, isn't this incredible? In the Chalban's model, intellect is not part of pnimius. Intellect is part of chitzonius. My neshama is my panemius. My seichel, my wisdom, my intellect, my understanding, my mind, my brain. That's grouped together with my physicality. Those are all things that are chitzonius. He goes on, he says, "Chitzonius mevia lidei bitois hapanemius keguf hamevates haneshama shavo." Now, of course, the chitzonius is very helpful, because what does the chitzonius do? The chitzonius allows the panemius to have expression. Because we'll say, thinking about this in just a moment. How does my neshama interact with the world? Right? How does my neshama interact with the world? What's the answer? Through my body. Right? That's why ultimately Yiddishkeit, Judaism, is not an ascetic religion. Right? We don't believe that the pathway to God is paved with physical privation. Right? We don't believe in afflicting ourselves physically. Because we believe that the guf is kadosh, the body is holy. Because the body itself is the vehicle for the expression of panemius. I could have the strongest, most beautiful, most healing neshama, but if my neshama has no way to express itself in this world, then it's stunted. So the chitzonius, the external aspects of me, give expression to my panemius. He goes on, he says, hachitzonios, I'm good. He says, v'hinei, yesh hevdol mahusi ben ha-panemius v'achitzonius, v'hu b'sod azman. This is what the Chalban says. So wherein lies the fundamental distinction between panemius and chitzonius? Where does that distinction lie? The Chalban posits in zman, in time. In time, meaning what? Hachitzonius nisuna tachas hazman. Vatalichim ha'ovrim ba itim umidudim. Bose chitzonius, listen to this incredible yesod. Chitzonius is subject to zman, subject to time. Sichlo shal adam, he gives an example. Bosai, what's a good example of this? So remember again, in the Chalban's Mala, Bosai, I want to point out, that's why you have to buy into this hashkafa, because the truth is, not everybody would agree with the fact that seichel is chitzonius and not panemius, right? Right? What are you going to say, Nechemia? Oh, spoken like a true misnagid. But I'll tell you how. We're going to see it. L'chaim. Emertz Hashem. Nechemia, no one is beyond salvation. That's what I want to start with. Right? That's number one. I'm sorry?
Even feelings, which you would think is more than
Oh, correct. So both I want to point out, even feelings, right? Remember again, emotions, he's also saying, are chitzonius. So again, hold on, we're going to get to this.
There's a lot of lip box there.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of lip box there.
Yeah, it's okay. This is Kiruv shir. I want to be clear. That's why we have food, we have drinks regular. This is like a page out of the Chabad playbook over here. This is I have a tefillin booth set up outside of this over here. So I'll tell you something amazing. We have everything. So I'll say, let's first accept his definition. So his definition of panemius is, in the category of panemius, according to the Chalban, there's only one thing. My neshama. Everything that's not my neshama by definition is chitzonius, including my physicality, which is obvious, but even my thoughts, even my emotions. Okay, we'll get to all of this in just a moment. The Chalban says, wherein lies the fundamental distinction between panemius and chitzonius? And listen to this. He says, chitzonius is subject to zman. It's subject to time. It's interesting. The example he gives, I will say, if you look, he says, sichlo shel adam eino gadol b'vasachos umidosav einon niskanos bepam achas mihira. So it's interesting. I would have thought he would have given a different. The example he gives is seichel, intellect. We'll say it takes time to develop intellect. It takes time to develop mature thinking, right? It takes time to go ahead and develop cognitive constructs. It's interesting. I would have thought he would have started with a much easier example, which is physicality, right? It takes time for a baby to grow. Everything that is, he probably is using seichel because it's a bit more nuanced. Everything that's chitzoni requires zman. Right? So again, my body doesn't grow all at once. It takes time. My seichel doesn't grow all at once. It takes time. Tza'ad achar tza'ad. Step after step. Be'itios. Small amounts of time. Holei cha'adam va'ole bechitzionuso. Chitzonius is really subject to time and incremental growth. I will say, watch this. Lumazos ha'panemius nitzeves mi alasman. So I will say, that says the Chalban, but panemius is me'alazman. Panemius is not subject to time. Panemius is above time. He says, for example, Bebas achos mavrik ba or chadash miziv elyon. Shefa kodesh haba mimiromim. See, Rabbi was saying, in Pnimius, Rav Kook has this in Oros HaTshuva. Rav Kook speaks about this concept of tshuva hadrogis and tshuva pitomis. Tshuva hadrogis, right, like darga, is incremental tshuva. Incremental tshuva, if you think about it, that's like the tshuva of the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. Right, first there's hakara sachet, then charata, then aziva, all the different pieces, kabbalah ala asid, all the different pieces. Rav Kook says there's another form of tshuva. It's called tshuva pitomis, instantaneous tshuva. Instantaneous tshuva, where a person ultimately again decides on a dime that they're going to be someone different, and they undergo a complete metamorphosis, a complete comprehensive change in a moment. See, Abosai, let me ask you this. Can you do that with your feelings? Can you do that going from one feeling to a polar opposite feeling in one moment? What would you say?
It's possible.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. What you could do is, you could fake it. So actually, I was going to say, the truth is, right, Barshat, we had today's daf, right? Itim chalam, itim bar. So the truth is, sometimes when people vacillate so dramatically between moods, that's often indicative of maybe something's wrong. Because human nature is that moods are transitional. Moods are transitional. In fact, moods are transitional. So I could be sad and I could become happy, but the notion of being fully sad and then being completely, unequivocally happy in the next moment, it doesn't happen. And it makes sense. According to Chalban, it makes absolute sense. Why? Because emotions and feelings are chitzonius. And anything that's chitzonius, what? Requires zman. Requires zman. The only thing that doesn't require zman in this world is for your neshama to change. It's for your panemius. That is able to change in a moment. That's ultimately, again, that's what Rav Kook called tshuva pitomis. But again, you don't have to go to Rav Kook. But say it's already in the Gemara. Right? What is the Gemara? Say two examples of the Gemara. Ha'omer li'isha, hare'at mikudeshas li al-menas, sha'ani tzadik gomer. Greatest pickup line, right? Right? Become mikudeshes to me, right? Become a to me on the condition that I am an absolute tzaddik. I'm an absolute tzaddik. What does the Gemara say? What does the Gemara say?
It's a good condition.
Afilu rasha gomer mikudeshas. Mikudeshas. Mikudeshas, the Gemara. So what are we talking about? If you know the guy's a Russia, I will say, by the way, you can make kiddushin with it tonight. You could betroth them and say, I'm marrying you on the condition you give me $1 million. You could do that. If she gives you $1 million, then you're married. If not, you're not. So you can make kiddushin on it tonight. So a guy says, marry me on the condition that I am a tzaddik. By the way, not just like a kleiner tzaddik, not just like a little tzaddik gomer. Right? Go big or go home. Right? At the end of the day, right? I am a tzaddik gomer. I'm a tzaddik gomer. The Gemara says, even if you know the guy's a Russia, the guy is a Russia, Mikudeshas. Why says the Gemara? Let's see what Lush of the Gemara is. Shema hear her b'tshuva. Shema hear her b'tshuva. And what does hear her mean? He thought. Thought about tshuva? So, I think about tshuva all the time. No problem. Just don't execute, right? But I think about it all, right? Can't stop thinking about tshuva all the time. Let's say, what do you mean? So what if he thought about tshuva? In other words, if you think Gemara answers me that he did tshuva, okay, then he's not a Rosh Hashanah anymore. But Shema hear her b'tshuva, how does that work? So a guy who's a Rosh Hashanah has a hear her tshuva, a thought of tshuva, an inner desire to do tshuva, doesn't change anything about his lifestyle, doesn't change anything about his behaviors, doesn't change anything about anything. And now suddenly she's mikudeshes elamai. That's what the Chalban is describing. It's getting from the Gemara. Because what Chazal are teaching us is the ability to effect comprehensive, cathartic, instantaneous change is possible. Is possible. You could change your panemius in a moment. Your chitzonius takes time. Chitzonius takes time. Emotions take time. Intellect takes time. The way I think takes time. Growth takes time. Everything takes time. But you want to change the mahus of your panemius? You want to change your neshama, your panemius, into the panemius of a tzaddik gomer? You could do that in a moment. You could do it in a moment because panemius is not governed by time. An incredible yesod. There are other examples of this. This is what the Gemara also says by the story of Elazar ben Drujah. Bachi Rabba, right? Rabba cried. He said, Yesh kana olama b'sha'achos. What do you mean, Yesh kana olama b'sha'achos? A person could acquire their world. It could be olam haba. It could also be this world. A person could endow meaning to their entire life in one moment. What's the pshat? Because by Panemius, it's lamala min azman. When it comes to Panemius, you could change anything and everything without time. It's lamala min azman. So the Chalban goes on. He says, the lashon of Yerbo is so beautiful at the end of that first paragraph. Bevas achos, in one moment, mavrik ba or chadash mizivelyon. But the lashon is so beautiful. Mavrik ba. Literally, there's like lightning. There's like lightning of a celestial light. Mavrik ba, this beautiful light, this or chadash that comes from above, suddenly illuminates inside of me. Shefa kodesh haba mimromim. A flow of divine energy. Arzeh asher nizra bipnimius berega achos yelech v'yetze el achitzonis ba'adraga. Oh, so I'll say now what happens? Just to understand the flow. So what happens after you have that change in your panemius? I'll say where does the panemius energy go? Where does it go? Where does it go? It trickles out. It trickles out. So the way ultimately again chitzonius changes is that it has the energy from the panemius. But the difference is, whereas the panemi change is instantaneous, ultimately, again, the chitzoni change is gradual. It's gradual.
So how do the two work together?
I'm sorry?
Does one quash down the other? I mean, the panemius grows, but the chitzonius doesn't.
It does. The chitzoni, they just don't go at the same pace. See, what happens is, it's almost as if you could imagine, trying to think of like a good mashal. You know what it's like? If you could, this is not a good mashal, but it's the only thing that's coming to mind. If you can imagine, if you have a wick, and you have a clear, like the Gemara Masechet Shabbos describes this nair that works this way. Imagine you have a receptacle that holds oil, right? And the oil drips down into a smaller kli, and the wick is here. So when you look at the top kli, everything that is necessary is there. The kli is male. But yet, when you look at the bottom kli is not mali. But the bottom kli is being fueled from the upper kli. So it's only coming in drip, drip, right? Tipa, it's only coming in. So this kli is still not fully there. The truth is you can make the hole a little bit wider, it can fill up a little bit more. So I think that's the nimshal, meaning this is the neshama. I mean, this is not the neshama, but right? In other words, that is bad example, right? But right, for some people it is, right? So you understand, of course, that the panemius itself instantaneously changes, and then the energy amassed in the panemius is ultimately, again, what fuels the chitzonius. But the chitzonius is fueled, or the growth in the chitzonius really only becomes apparent over time. He goes on, he says, B'shlavim merubim, kach efshar, sha'ar shehifhik berega achos b'pnimius. So we'll say this, and here's the operative line. This is why it's important to remember, or shehifhik berega achos b'pnimius. You could have a light that immediately and instantaneously transformed the pnimius. His galuso hachutza timashech shanim rabos. And I will say, that light which instantaneously transforms the panemius could take years in order to influence the chitzonius. That's the relationship here. So I will say, so once again, we have our definitions, panemius and chitzonius. Panemius being the neshama, chitzonius pretty much being everything else. The fundamental distinction, panemius could change instantaneously. Chitzonius could change. That change is fueled by the panemius, but that chitzoni change often takes time. But so look at the second paragraph. V'hinei yesh lahavin. And here's what you have to understand. Says the Chalban. Sha'panemius hi ha'ikr. I will say, what's the ikr of a yid? What is the ikr of a yid? The ikr of a yid ultimately, again, is his panemius. Right? It's his neshama. I will say, what is more important in this world than my neshama? Right? Everything else, well, if you think about it, it's a little bit of an overwhelming thing to think about. But everything else I have in this world comes and goes. Right? So I will say, think about this. A person has relationships. Are relationships important? Relationships important? Yes. Good. I would expect everyone to answer this in the same way, right? Yes, relationships are incredibly important. You know what the incredible thing about relationships are? You can't guarantee if you're going to hold on to them or not. For a variety of reasons. Sometimes people pass away. Sometimes relationships don't work out. Sometimes people change, a whole variety of things. So what's important? Your profession? Your profession? I go to many levayas. I've yet to be at a levaya where they closed up the office and everyone from the office came to the levaya, right? In other words, I'm sure it's happened, but lamaisa, your coworkers are wonderful. I'm sure they love you. They're fantastic. Everyone's replaceable. No one is irreplaceable. No one's indispensable within their career. Family is incredibly important also. But lamaisa again, even family. There's no guarantees what you can hold on to, what you can't hold on to. The only thing in life over which you have complete shlita and is yours for all eternity is your neshama. And it's always yours. It's always yours. And therefore, says the Chalban, Pnimius hi ha'ikr. It's not saying the other things aren't important. Of course, everything is important. Our relationships are important. Our professions are important. Everything is important. But Lamaisa, what's the ikr? What's the ikr? The ikr has to be the one thing that is the only constant in your life. And that is your neshama.
Does the neshama actually change? The words are seichel, meaning the difference between tzaddik and rasha is really is I guess gouged through action, right? Do a positive thing, right? Meaning the neshama in its essence, does that ever actually change?
He seems to say that it changes. Now, what that change looks like remember, how does the Chalban describe panemius instantaneous change? He describes it as a blast of light. Like a blast of lightning that's illuminating my neshama. So I don't think it means that the neshama goes from ra to tov, but I think more importantly what the neshama goes to probably is from inactive to active, from dormant to alive. Because sometimes, like lahavdil, the neshama could go into sleep mode. It's on, it's there, it's working, it's doing its thing kind of behind, but it's in sleep mode. It's not driving anything. When a person undergoes that panemius change, by definition, the neshama is awakened.
It's really just me getting more in touch with the neshama, where the neshama is overriding the seichel.
Correct. I don't even know if it's over. I don't even know if that has to be overriding. Because remember, the Chalban is saying it's the neshama that fuels everything. So this is not like a typical, chassidus concept where there's a clash between, panemius and chitzonius, between seichel and neshama, and I need the neshama to win. That's not. The Chalban says that also, but that's not what he's focusing on over here. What he's focusing on over here is the ikar of me is my panemius, is my neshama. The neshama could change. Now, what does that change mean? He's describing it almost like, I would want to use the word, almost like inspired. Like what he's describing over here is that when a person decides to focus on their panemius, they wake the neshama out of sleep mode. Suddenly again, there's this lightning bolt of divine energy, and suddenly the neshama is awake. So the Chalban goes on, he says, Ki berega, shofia ar b'panemius, as I call talich has galus hurak inyan shalazman v'lo zulos. Ki kvar hukva hashefa v'nechkak ba'adam b'sod pnimiuso. Ma she'en kein, im ha'ar adayin lohir b'pnimius, she'az huganuz b'miromim v'rachok mea adam kulo. So ultimately, again, once my neshama is awakened, and that light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inside of me, then it could go on to go ahead and awaken the guf as well, to do things with the chitzonius. But ultimately, again, before that light is activated, that light remains with HaKadosh Baruch Hu away from me. Zehu yisodi v'shorashi ma'od, asher mabit ala olamos b'mabat rachav ha'amok, v'kolal es ha'panimius v'chitzonius ke'echad. Mashal abaraz mayim shenimtza barosh migdal v'gava ma'od, berega sheniftuchu ha'mayim lemala. Azir, so we'll say, so go on a little bit. So skip a little bit to skip a little bit to the last paragraph. Sod zeh remez b'psuke. Actually, no. Skip to page Chaf Aleph. V'novin davar gadol. Ki kol merchave ha'olamos benuyim b'sod panemius v'chitzonius. That panemius ba'u b'sod ha'echos v'amehirus. So we'll say, now listen to this. This is actually incredible. He says, no, that life is built on this panemi versus chitzoni dialectic. This divide. He says, "V'hu v'achitzonius ba'a b'sod hakamos v'hazman." Remember again the fundamental distinction. You could amass your panemius in the matter of a moment. Chitzonius is always going to take time. I just want to read this last part. He says, "V'hu sod Torah sa'arizal." I will say, watch this. Watch this. Ki Rabbeinu ha'arizal limed es talmido chavivo Rabbi Chaim Vital b'meshech shana v'asara chodshim bilvad. The Arizal taught his Talmud Mufak of Chaim Vital Kala Torah Kula in 1 year and 10 months. 1 year and 10 months. The Arizal taught Chaim Vital Kala Torah Kula. So we'll say, how is that possible? Uzman halokatzer hu ma'od biyachas leme'os shanim shel chai am Yisrael. I don't understand. How can you go ahead and teach someone Kala Torah Kula in 1 year and 10 months? How is that possible? How is that possible? And they will say, they say about Reb Chaim, he made a Sima Torah every year. Understand, Reb Chaim was able to make a Sima Torah every year. He wasn't doing that since he was 5 years old, right? I don't know what age he started doing it at, but it takes a number of years to make it to that point where you could finish Kalat. So how is it that the Arizal is teaching Reb Chaim Vital Kala Torah Kula in 1 year and 10 months? Ubizman Katzer Kolkach Himchil La'olam Shefa Rav Ma'od Ella Shahaya Besod Hapinimius. Wow. See, Rabosai, there are two ways that you could learn Torah also. There are two ways you could learn Torah. You could learn Torah with Chitzonius, or you could learn Torah with Panemius. You could learn Torah with your mind and with your intellect and with your emotions, or you could learn Torah with your neshama. I will say two dramatically different experiences. Remember, again, I quoted a number of, I don't remember how long ago it was, Rabbi Nachman. It's a little chazara. Rabbi Nachman says, what happens if you get to a sugya in Gemara that you don't understand? What should you do? What does the Rebbe say? Move on. Move on. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to figure it out, but don't spend a week on it. Don't spend a week on it. Move on. Move on. The Rebbe says you'll understand it the next time around. Right? Rabbi Nachman also chazer Kala Torah Kula pretty often as well. You'll understand the next time around. And just will say, when we hear that, sometimes for many of us, it almost seems like an offensive thing to say. Person went to yeshiva, right? Learning is all about plugging away and toiling on melus batorah, trying to figure it out. So how could it be that lemaisa again? I just move on. So what the Rebbe was trying to teach us was, well, how do you learn Torah? Do you learn Torah with your mind? Or do you learn Torah with your neshama? See, if I learn Torah with my mind, then everything has to make sense. If I learn Torah with my neshama, then ultimately, again, even that which doesn't make sense to my mind makes absolute sense to my neshama. So says the Chalban something amazing. You know how you could cover Kala Torah Kula in 1 year and 10 months? If you're not learning Torah Chitzoni, but you're learning Torah Panimi. If you're learning Torah with your neshama panemius is lamala min azman. It's above zman. It's above zman. You could accomplish anything and everything in a very short amount of time. Versus if you're learning Torah with your mind. Now, I will say, I want to be clear. The Chalban is not telling us that we should learn Torah with our mind. What he's just pointing out, and by the way, we're also not the Chaim Vital or the Arizal, right? Learn Torah with our mind. And we should plug away. We should plug away at things. But Lemaisa, what he's trying to highlight is a dynamic, is a distinction between Panemius and between Chitzonius. He goes on, he says, Ubizman Katzar, Ella Shahaya Bisoda Panemius, Kirak Talmido Ne'aman Beso, Has Hisigo Vikasvo, Umisham Ve'ilech Basod Achitzonius, Shutalich Gilui HaTorah Azula Kol Yisrael. So the Chalban goes on. I will say, let me just tie this back to the Leil HaSeder because we're almost out of time. But how does the Chalban tie this back to the Leil HaSeder? So he explains again. I'll tell you this outside. Actually, skip to the last page Chav Beis. It's the last page. I thought we were going to get through two essays tonight, 2 pieces. But okay, let's say take a look at the last paragraph on page Chav Beis. V'hinei Navin Mikolza. Supposed to remember again. How did the Chalban start? Right? What was the kasha? Remember, what was the kasha? Right? The Seder is a couple of hours. How could an event that spans a couple of hours have an impact on the year? Right? It's a tipa shebetipos. It's nothing. How could it have an impact? I will say, look at the last paragraph of page Chav Beis. V'hinei navin mikol zos. Ad kam mesugal hu leil haseder b'doroseinu eila. Sha'anu kvar mamish bi'itzumo shel talech ha'geula. We'll say this is a little bit of a tie back to Akitza V'Ranenu. We're living in the times of Geula already. Ubarach Hashem shabanu la'artzeinu. We have come back to Eretz Yisrael. V'hino senes peroseha ba'ayin yafa. And like the Navi says, how do you know when Mashiach is coming? Mashiach is going to say, when the land begins to produce fruit. Does the land produce fruit? Baruch Hashem, not only does the land produce fruit, but Eretz Yisrael exports fruit. I will say, do you know what a nes nigla that is? That Eretz Yisrael exports fruit. I will say, do you know what a nes nigla it is? That Eretz Yisrael has award-winning wineries. Right? That's why, again, it's important to be makbid. No one needs to drink any wine other than Eretz Yisrael wine. Right? It's just, there's so much good wine in Eretz Yisrael. And again, mamish, when you drink it, you're drinking geula. You're mamish drinking good. The land is alive. The land is alive. So the Chalban says we're in the times of Geula. V'atorah miskaberes ma'od. V'spashtus raze Torah holeches u'mischazekes. And Torah is alive. And Torah is strong. And ultimately, again, I will say, even the Panemius of Torah, going back to Akitz V'Ranenu, even the Panemius of Torah, the more esoteric parts of Torah, which often were not studied, are now studied more often. Hine bizmanim elu naasa or takuf ubebarak echad barak holech umer v'choder ve'al kain naskil otzem pu'ulas leil haseder. Elosei says the Chalban. Now with this we're going to conclude. I want to tell you the power of the Seder night. Shumamash hazman hamisugal biyoser b'shana lahavrakas or hageula. Elosei says the Chalban, and I just want to tell you this. If you came tonight looking for a good vart to say at the Seder, this is not it. Right? This is not it. This isn't a vart. This isn't a vart. This is life. This is life. The Chalban says, when I sit down at the Seder, what's my kavanah? My kavanah is, I want to change my panemius. I want a lightning bolt of divine energy to surge through my neshama. That's what I want tonight. That's what I want. And I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to remember all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us. And I'm going to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. And then like we saw in the first piece, and I'm going to find the courage to confront my own Mitzrayim, to confront the things that are holding me back, to confront my faults, to confront my shortcomings, to confront those things that are misfiring inside of me. And I'm going to go free tonight also. I'm going free. I sit at the Seder, isn't it an amazing thing? We sit at the Seder, and we have beautiful wine, and beautiful tablecloth, and beautiful this, and all the wonderful things. And right, we have all the trappings of a Ben Chorin. All the trappings, a nice pillow, everything's fantastic. The dining room looks like a perfect picture of freedom. And what's the great irony? There's only one thing in my dining room that's not free. And you know what it is? It's me. It's me. It's me. Everything else looks like cherus. Everything else looks like freedom. The only thing that's still enslaved, the only thing that's still in Mitzrayim is me. And my avoda over the Seder night is, as we said before, to leave my own Mitzrayim. And Abbas says the Chalban, when you find the courage to leave your Mitzrayim, and you find the courage to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to wake up your neshama out of sleep mode, there's an instantaneous, internal, cathartic, comprehensive change which occurs. And all of that happens over the couple of hours of the Seder night. And I will say, if I'm able to experience that change in my panemius on Seder night, that impacts the rest of the year. Because remember again, what fuels the chitzonius? What fuels the chitzonius is the panemius. Right? It's like the slow drip candle, right? The slow drip oil, right? So that the receptacle with oil, that's my panemius. And then everything else feeds the chitzonius. If I could fill up my panemius on Pesach night, if I could leave my Mitzrayim, if I could say, Ribono Shel Olam, I want my neshama to be illuminated with a lightning bolt from you, and I could affect that internal instantaneous change, then a couple of hours of the Seder have a dramatic effect on the entire year. Let's say, that, says the Chalban, is the power of the Leil HaSeder. It offers us a platform for panemiistic change, for really changing who we are on the inside. The lightning bolt of energy And it's that energy that then can fuel us over the rest of the year. Listen, I think sometimes that we'll sing a song, but I think that sometimes the challenge that we often encounter when we come to the Seder is, first of all, often we're tired. We're tired, so like it's sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. It's also like, we feel like this pressure to get through the Haggadah, right? As if the mitzvah is to get through the Haggadah. And we forget the fact that the mitzvah is actually not to get through the Haggadah. The Haggadah is just a vehicle. Right? I always tell people, if you don't open up the Haggadah the entire night, you can still be Yotzei everything. I mean, you have to know the brachos, you have to know what you have to say. But Lamaisa, we forget that sometimes the most important part of the Seder is just closing my eyes, saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm ready to leave my Mitzrayim. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And I'm also ready to experience that internal change. And if we could harness that energy on the Leil HaSeder, then that is enough energy to sustain us and to fuel us for the entire year. So we should be Zocheh Mirza Hashem. That as we sit down at the Seder this year, first of all, like I said, I don't know that the Chalban lends itself to being set over at the table. Right? I don't know. Maybe it depends if you have a Halak Seder. I mean, you could do it. Right? I don't know if it, but what I would tell you is, take the sheet, keep it in your Haggadah, and over the course of the Seder, reference it. Because if we could tap into the Chalban's holy words, then in Meretz Hashem, not only is there no telling what we could accomplish on the Leil Seder, but there's no telling what we could accomplish in the year to come as well. That was very nice.
I was like, shoot.
Yeah.
Hey.
you see it? Yeah.
English song.
It's a hybrid.
So let's do album.
Yeah, I sent it to you. You're not listening to the stuff I said.
Come on.
I'm keeping you current.
Turn off all notifications for my silver.
Thanks. Oh, what's the Naftali Campbell song?
Shir Zishmayim? Or, is that this?
Not that one. What's the name?
Shir Zishmayim, yeah?
Sure, there's mine.
Well done, Howard.
Exactly.
Yes,
you?
Valley's we still just was tired. You've got Svi on the Gashmias.
He's fueling the
No, of course. No, you're fueling the Gashmias.
Fine.
I'll take it.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
It's a great Svi.
Whatever role I'm playing.
Good, you know
We can figure it out later.
You can do Tom out tomorrow? See, we have Tom out tomorrow. What do you...
Tom Mao?
Yeah, what do you think?
Are we having?
Smoke something.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we've got 13 hours. It takes 12 hours to do a
You
brisket.
have like a brisket?
Oh my gosh, the one you had.
No, it doesn't have to be a brisket.
Brisket,
What are we doing?
brisket.
What do you want to do?
It's all right.
Everyone says it doesn't have to be this. doesn't
We're
have to be
used
that.
to having just
You know
a
what?
cholent. I mean, a kugel, I mean. So anything above that.
Make a fatty object.
You know what the funny thing is?
By
We
the
got to
way.
get together because I'm happy to do. My time is free.
Always. How he's not busy at all.